Today's guest is Jason Perez. He's the CEO and co-founder at YARDZ. All right, Jason, thank you for coming on the show.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Awesome. Your background, you have many different backgrounds, but your current venture, YARDZ in the construction industry, in and around equipment, I guess buying and selling. I think you have a different twist on it.
Yeah, so we actually we say we take it from birth to grave, right? From the initial purchase all the way to the sale of the asset, but really our application handles everything in between. So once they buy it, how are you going to maintain it? How are you logistically going to move it? How are you going to job cost it? Inspect it, and then we have a bunch of integrations and ways of monitoring and reporting and uh, essentially it's a turnkey solution. If you're a construction company that owns a lot of equipment, rents a lot of equipment, or maybe you have a warehouse full of things that you have to manage, our system's the infrastructure, right? The plumbing, electrical, mechanical that works hard every day so that you feel comfortable, right?
Yeah.
That's the idea, right? When you go in a home, you don't necessarily have to see behind the walls. You don't have to see the plumbing. You don't have to see the AC. You don't have to see the electrical. But those are all the things that make the temperature right. They give you the right lighting, that do the things, flush the toilet. That's pretty important, right? And get rid of the crap. We're that application that get rid of the crap, give you some light into where you're going, and hopefully give you that comfort of, just right amount of heat or cooling.
Sure. I love the analogy. You have, I guess, construction industry, various backgrounds. But I'm always interested, obviously, I'm always interested in the origin story, but I'm also interested in what led up to that. Like, was entrepreneurship always on your mind in the early days?
Yeah, I come from an entrepreneurial family, and I think, there's a lot to say about um, the way that you're bred, right? And I think there's certain things that are innate in a person, certain desires that are deep founded, but I also think that examples are important as well. My family, both my parents were born in Cuba. My grandparents were from Cuba. And essentially, my origin story starts with my grandparents getting told, "Hey, communist revolution happened, and you no longer own your house. You no longer own your cars, and most importantly, you no longer own your place of business." Right? They took my family's businesses away, and they said, "Report to a government office." And so, my grandparents had the willingness and foresight and I guess the stomach to be able to say we're going to go to the United States. We're going to make a life for ourselves. And when they did that, it's all done in an entrepreneurial spirit. They were entrepreneurs in Cuba, and they came over and they said we're going to start a company. We're going to do things here. And so my dad was the same way, right? He started an electrical contracting company, and we saw him, even though he worked for a company, he actually worked at Children's Hospital Los Angeles as a electrical engineer. So, everything from starting at changing light bulbs in a hospital to, managing the department later on. He still on the side had an electrical contracting company. And so we saw this. We saw different ways and very young. I tell people my first venture was picking up dog poop in the neighborhood. I was 10 years old and I thought, heck, people don't like to do that. So I'm going to charge people and go pick up their dog poop. And so,
I mean,
um,
I want to understand the pitch that you're going to these
yeah.
homes. How did that sound, and how did it go?
Well, the pitch back then, when you're a kid, it's all about just cuteness.
Yeah.
I'm trying to start a business and, would you help me out? Right. So there's different ways. We tell people there's toward buyers and away buyers. Right. And so when you buy, you're either buying because of a pain that you want to get away from. That's an away buyer. Or you're buying towards something that you're really excited. So, like at this point, Starbucks is a tour buyer. People go because the name, because it's trendy, it's cool, and they're going to be part of that element, right? That lifestyle. Um, but But when you go buy Tylenol, it's usually because you have a headache, right? You're trying to get away from that pain. So, if I knew the psychology back then, I would say I was walking in to get them away from having to pick up dog poop, which is something you want to get away from. But also, hoping that my cuteness as a little kid is bringing them some type of emotional gratification to go, oh, I'm helping a little kid build a business, right?
Yeah,
Which failed miserably, by the way. That was I think it's great that my first venture failed miserably at 10 years old.
sure. I mean, it's a common thing for trying things and not working, right? I mean, I think
Yeah,
how many I mean things that have I tried where it started a certain way and went in a completely different direction.
that's right. Even my current venture was like that, and starting there, one of the things I learned was, yeah, as they say, you have passion, right, or your talent, your passion, your resources, and how do you match those things? Um, I found out that I wasn't passionate about picking up dog poop, so my motivation every day, fog behavioral theory says there's ability, there's motivation, right, on a graph, and then a prompt. And my motivation just wasn't high enough for me to decide that I was going to use my ability to go pick it up. And so I got fired a lot of places for not doing the job that I was supposed to be, doing. But my next venture was, funny enough, a dance company I started, and I was teaching people how to dance. I was choreographing, and talk about passion, and talent and resource, everything matched, and I did exceptionally well. It was a cash cow, and I actually graduated college with no debt because of that. So, but it wasn't necessarily something I wanted to build. And you're not going to sell a dance company one day for millions of dollars, right? So, um, my next venture was a project management company. After working for big engineering firms, I decided to do it for myself, and that turned out to be exceptionally fantastic as well. I wasn't as passionate about it initially. My initial passion was around going to the Marine Corps after I graduated college, but I learned to love it, and then I became really good at it. And by the end of it, I really enjoyed it. My talents matched my passion, and um, I produced a lot of fruit for my family, at least enough to start YARDZ, my current venture.
Yeah. So how did you stumble across the opportunity of yards?
Yeah, so my neighbor actually was in the rental industry, and I call it a soft exit of Veritas Group, which was my project management company. And so he was looking for mentorship and an advisor, and then seeing if I wanted to be a partner in the company. And I said, I just got out of something. I don't think I want to go start another company right away. And he was talking about an equipment brokerage where they would broker out rentals. And so I tried to mentor him, and about 6 months later, we kind of came to the realization he just didn't have the appetite either. But I saw that a tech company in the construction equipment world exited well above 10x on rev. And I was like, this doesn't make sense. I tried to sell my consulting company. I was getting like 1.6 on EBITDA, right? Like bottom line, but they're getting 10 on top line. Like this just doesn't make sense to me. So I got with my mentor advisor, Dan Hughes, and we talked a little bit about it. He's like, yeah, that's what the tech world looks like. I have a bunch of friends in it, all this stuff. And so that's when we started in search of a product that essentially could do what he wanted to do, which was, can it manage all the different rentals from all the different companies in a seamless single platform? And when we found that didn't exist, we built a prototype, we tested it, we got great feedback. The prototype was terrible; it sucked. Um, and people, you would use it once or twice, and they're like, I don't want to use this anymore. But we learned so much about it, and very quickly. I mean, it only took us about 6 months to find out that we had the wrong solution. And then we spent the next 12 oh, sorry, about 6 weeks, not 6 months. Did I say 6 months? It took us about 6 weeks to find out we had the wrong solution. And then we spent the next like 4 to 6 months building the right one. And then from there, it just trended upwards. People liked what we're doing. We listened to the customer, spent a lot of time in their offices, and focused on the problem, right? Not the solution. What is their pain today? Talk about away buyers, right? Why would they buy a product? Because we don't have a name, so we got to do something for them that takes the pain away that they want to get away from. And they did. They wanted to get away from spreadsheets. They wanted to get away from sticky notes, and they wanted to get away from, whiteboards that they were using everywhere.
Yeah. No, that's very good. Did you sort of fund it privately small? Like how did you go about doing that? Yeah, what was the plan?
Yeah, I love telling this story. So one of the advice that I got from my mentor, and he connected me actually to this 9-figure exit tech, CEO. They said, go find an incubator and go meet people and talk to them before you started. So I did that. And we were going to build, I laid out an entire spec of what we are going to build. And we met with a gentleman named Michael Sangbush, who's still an advisor for us. And he pretty much told us we were dumb, which was what we needed to hear. You know, it's painful. And, if you put away your ego, you can save a lot of money and you can save a lot of time. And so we did. I said that's just dumb. That's not even an MVP. You're trying to build a final product. An MVP looks like this. And so we defined it, and we went from a scope of $250,000 to a scope of $11,000. So I invested $11,000 initially to build the prototype. And I said I wasn't going to spend more than like $50,000. And we moved in and started building the product, and it crept and it crept and it crept. But we bootstrapped, me and my tech founder, Josh Schuyler. He bootstrapped as well, and he worked for free. And we made it happen right in the early years. And then about after 2 years, when we had kind of some validation, I won't say it was product market fit completely. That's when we had some of our customers and advisors actually buy into the company. I don't call it a raise per se, because it was a joint effort of people saying, we've given into this company. We're one of your customers. We're excited about what you're doing, and we want to share on the upside one day. Versus us going out and begging for money, right? And so it was just a mutual agreement that worked out really, really well. And again, it was less than $1 million. And since then, we've never raised. And since then, we're profitable. And last year we grew nearly 70%. So for the people that are out there in the tech world, you get these stories of go raise and look for these crazy valuations, and then raise again, and then raise again, and raise again, and end up with 5% of your risk it all. Like, to me, um, there's another way of doing it.
Yeah.
You don't have to listen to the Silicon Valley way. There's other ways to get there.
Yeah. And it sounds to you, it started with a few good people, right? That you got some very, very good guidance and feedback from.
That's right. That's right. The number one advice I give every entrepreneur is build an advisory board. That's it. It doesn't matter what you're doing. I mean, even if we're talking outside of business, like, people think I'm crazy, but I even got a marriage mentor, right? I've got somebody that I can go to tell me that I'm dumb and what I need to do, to be better at that. Like, if you want to be the best, you got to be coached by the best. You
Yeah.
know, you're not the best. Just, you don't wake up the best. You wake up with the desire to be the best. The only way you get better is by learning. The only way you get better is by putting ego aside. And the only way you get better is by having people that can teach you and help you and refine you and get you to those goals. And sometimes you outgrow the people that got you to a certain stage and level, and you got to find somebody that's even better than them, right? And that's okay too. You don't trash the ones in the past that took care of you. You just grow to the next one, recognizing, you know, what the others have done for you as well.
Yeah. That makes sense. Um, is the marriage mentor like, what do you look for in a marriage mentor? Is it the same process of looking at for a management? I'm just curious.
Yeah, yeah, that's fantastic. That's an awesome question. I guess it was kind of divine intervention. One of our friends actually invited us to this 8-week course. We got connected to the couple that was running it. I initially went in thinking, okay, I'm going to be part of another group. They're going to tell me that I have to lead the group, um, even though I'm going in there and I'm supposed to be learning and all this type of stuff. Man, it was the complete opposite of anything I could have thought of. This couple was so well schooled, um, both in the research that they've done, the mentors that they have, the process that they went through, that the applicable tools that they brought to the table, the process that they brought to the table were so impactful that I couldn't ignore the benefit that they brought. And so it was my opportunity to seize, the moment and ask and see if he, the husband, would be willing to help. And sure enough, they ended up starting a nonprofit. I now sit on the board of that nonprofit called Intentional Marriages, and the impact is vast to both couples and families, because what you do as a couple will be emulated by your kids later on. And you got to think about that, just like I followed the entrepreneurial path because of my grandparents, and because of my father. um you know my kids are probably going to do the same thing. They're going to believe that anything is possible, that they can start their own company, they can do what they want to. Yeah, pretty neat. And so when it comes to marriage, they're going to try to emulate the same.
But just following up on that, I mean, that's not some like I guess what differentiated you a bit was it was very clear on your profile. You had that as something that you were doing as a board of directors. I thought there was more there, so that was interesting.
Yeah, yeah, I think, um, success gets bred everywhere, if you do it correctly, you know? And some people like to sacrifice and they say, I can't have a good home life if I have a good business life, or I
Mm,
can't have a good business life if I want a good home life. And there are
mm.
scenarios, right? Like we don't have a special needs child. We don't have certain dynamics that might require more of my time. And certainly there are situations where you might not be able to do both. But for most of us, um, we can do both. If we believe in excellence, we're willing to apply ourselves, and we're willing to be in the moment every step of the way. When you're in business, when you're with the family, when you're in your marriage, wherever it might be, whatever you're doing, if you do it to the best of your ability, you're going to have positive results.
And I guess the first step is to understanding that that's possible.
That's right. So important. So important. Um, everybody quotes that Wayne Gretzky, right? Like you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. Um, that's true. You have to believe that you can make the shot in the first place to take the shot. And then you got to be okay with failing at picking up dog poop, right? Like you got to be okay with missing the shot, because if you miss one shot, it doesn't mean you're going to miss the next shot, right? I think Abraham Lincoln was the one where, if you look at his credentials before president, he failed at pretty much every office, every position, anything that he wanted to do. Nobody voted for him. Nobody, like, he just failed and failed and failed and failed and failed, right? And now the name Abraham Lincoln, I mean, everybody knows it. For some, he's the greatest president that ever lived. In a time that was you know full of turmoil, so difficult as a country. And there's the guy that failed at everything, leading us, to some type of unity and peace, right? Like you just got to understand. Sometimes it's your moment, right? Um, it's just because it doesn't happen at the time that you want it to happen doesn't mean it's not going to happen.
Yeah, very well said. Um, anything more specific you want to do? You want to talk about with the current venture you're in, or any other experience you had in around construction or entrepreneurship?
Yeah, you know, I think it's really important, as I mentioned, around just the process of being an entrepreneur, you know, and specifically a tech entrepreneur, because you know, I thought I was an entrepreneur when I had a consulting company, right? And we were doing fantastic, and you know, almost 70% gross margin and almost 50% to the bottom line. I mean, it was a fantastic, very successful company. Um, but then when I went into tech, um, I think I really started to understand what an entrepreneur was. You know, the solving of problems, and the desire to go where other people haven't. The creation of something that never existed. Like these are things that really change, and then the stomach to push on when everybody else thinks that you're not going to be successful, right? And what people need to understand is, yeah, at the end of the day, there are certain skills, certain talents, passions that you have, and you should certainly make sure that your talents and passion match, right? And that you have the resources to do it, because that's going to give you the most success. But also do it your way. You know, I tried doing things other people's way, and I noticed that I fail consistently because it's not my personality, it's not my strategy, it's not the way that that my mind is built. But we built a company, a tech company that's profitable, and that's just not even the way people do it, right? We believed in fundamentals, and most people don't. They build tech companies and they build it on debt and fast growth, and 99% of them fail, right? And so, the one thing I'll leave people with is, you know, one, surround yourself with good people, surround yourself with advisors, surround yourself with counsel, and make them part of your process. We meet on a quarterly basis. We have 90-day sprints where we look and we go, hey, these are our goals for the next 90 days. We're going to hire this person. We're going to do this many deals. We're going to focus on this, that. Could be administrative things, could be sales things, could be customer success things, but I'm going to define my next 90 days. Here's the 4 simple goals, right? Not huge lists, just 4 simple goals, 2 simple goals, whatever it is. Keep those people around. Make sure you meet with them regularly, and then make real benchmarks for yourself. And then 2, you know, again, just you gotta do it your way. You know, you gotta do it your way. Like that is just so important, because if you don't, the stress is already there with building a company. It's even worse when you're trying to do it somebody else's way.